Hello, good people of Inner Echo. It's Glenn here, aka Analog Path, laughingly releasing what some people might call music under that artist name. Coming to you from the Highlands of Scotland, where I'm on the beach with no one else apart from me and the dog, which is why I like it up here. Obviously, Harry kicked off an amazing start with his post about how to make ambient music. I think I've seen some other people from the community also putting some great posts up there. And I thought I would chip in with something that I found hard, which was kind of getting to grips with music theory, or understanding, what a key is and how to use the right notes, how they, when you sit down at the piano and you can bash a load of notes, some of them sound good together, some of them don't. That's effectively what I'm talking about, how to work out which ones do sound good, which ones to use. And if I help someone just go, aha, even if it's just one person, I'll be happy that this video has succeeded. So hopefully that's what I'll try and do. And I'll try and keep it really lightweight on the music theory, because I am no expert. I don't have a music degree. I'm entirely self-taught from the University of YouTube, just like many of the rest of us. But I've been piecing it together over the last few years, and it's sort of starting to form some kind of coherent knowledge base in my head. So I'll try and kickstart you. If you're a complete novice, complete beginner, as long as you have a keyboard or some kind of MIDI controller or a synth, you should be able to be fine, but you can translate this to guitar and other things. It's just easier to visualize as a keyboard. Anyway, we're going to make a little ambient track. I'm not promising it's going to be a good one, but we'll make a track through this video. And as you can see, I'm at the beach at the moment, so I'm going to use my iPhone, that's all you need, to record a few seconds of the sound of the waves, or some sort of environmental field recording. So I'm going to do that. I'll film a bit and then I'll patch the audio in, and just remember that, because we're going to use that later. When I'm back home after a dog, I'm going to sit down and try and film the keyboard and teach you how you can identify a key, find what works together, and maybe get you moving and start to make that first track that you wanted to be making. So yeah, bear with me. We'll be back in the studio shortly, but now let's take a field recording, the sounds of the waves on an iPhone. Okay, let's see if I can do this justice with a less than adequate filming situation. So, I'm not going to do all of music theory because, one, I don't even have any qualifications in music. I'm just self-taught. Two, it's a massive subject and it'll take a lot of time. You'll get overwhelmed. You need to absorb this stuff over time, practice it, then internalize certain things. But what I want to try and do is give you enough of the absolute raw basics to get you going, maybe making some ambient music of your own. So here we've got a piano and keyboard. To make sure I can see myself, yep, there's my fingers. So basically you'll see there are some black notes and some white notes, and then there's a gap. So you have two black notes, a gap where two white notes touch either side, then three black notes, and then another gap where there's two white notes touching, and then we basically repeat. So this here is kind of, you could imagine, think of this as the start of your keyboard, or most people do. It's the C note. And then you go up through these notes until you get to another C. And that's an octave. And there are kind of 8 key notes, well, 7 notes in the scale between here and here. But I guess the important thing to remember, if we just focus on this, is in a scale, which is a set of notes that you're going to use that sound good together, you don't use all of these notes. You're only going to use some of these notes. And that's kind of the key concept you need to take away, is not all of these notes are up for grabs. I mean, you can use them, but they won't sound, in a Western music context, they won't sound amazing. You're free to use them, and blues does, and you can borrow from other keys, all that kind of good stuff. You can use all of the notes you want to, that's up to you. But in general, Western music you pick a scale and you stay within a certain set of notes. Now the ones, so we've got C to C, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then in between, we've got sharps and flats. And whether they're a sharp or a flat really just depends on the context. If you were to make a scale that had an F in it, you wouldn't then also be able to use the letter F again to say I've got an F sharp. So that would be called a G flat in some, because this is a G. So you can go flat as in down, or sharp as in you're sharpening it up. And these are sort of semitones. So this is a harp. So this is C to D is a whole tone. So it actually jumps 2 steps. So it really jumps from the C, C sharp, D. So this is a semitone. So each of this, so really the way the scale goes is like this. Okay, that's the full 12. That's what they'd call a chromatic scale, which is all of the colours, you know, all of the notes in there. But generally when you're playing, you're not going to use them all. And that's the thing I'm trying to convey, probably inexpertly. So what you'll see a lot of people doing is just using the white keys, because that's the C major scale. So you can just play these. They all sound good together, and you're in the C major scale, right? All of these, so you can, if you want to make chords out of it, that's a C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, and A minor. And then the last note in the scale before we come back to C again is actually a B diminished. So it sounds nice, but it's actually not a B major or a B minor. It's a diminished, which means it's kind of a minor, but the fifth was a B major would be, don't worry too much, that would be a B major. Doesn't really fit in the scale. You could maybe force it in. You could. But anyway, in Western music it's a B diminished, which means we flatten the fifth and it's a minor, so the third gets flattened anyway. Too much theory. I want to stay away from the theory. So everyone does the, you know, the C major thing. So if you want to play chords, you might do what they call a progression. So if you count through here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G is the fifth in C. So in the C scale, so we're ignoring the black notes. In the C scale, G is the fifth, E is the third. And you'll see, these are called intervals, and you'll see people talking about chord progressions like a 1, 1, 6, 4, 5. Okay, and we're talking about hopping around the intervals in the scale, not counting the numbers, just within the notes within the scale. So that's the easy one, right? And then if you wanted a minor, so this is major, which people say sounds happy if you play the chords in it. And you can just hover around in there if you want to get started. Pick the C major scale, use only the white notes, and you can more or less use almost any combination. And you'll be using a chord of some kind. You might not know the name of it, but if you use any combination of these white notes, you'll be able to discover kind of different chords and extensions, you know, and jazz chords and things. Great. If it was minor, you'd have a slightly different scale. Okay, so a couple of black notes creep in there. So we've got C, D, E flat, F, G, A, and then instead of a B, we play a B flat. And then back to C. And I guess it's important to think, so you've got this note, this note, this note, a couple of these. So we're going to ignore these two, right? These are not in the key, okay? The E and the B. So all of the chords you're allowed to play, you can make using just the notes that we've used here, right? So as long as I don't use the E and the B, we could put a sticker on here and say don't use it. Sounds a bit sadder. That's because it's a C minor. And the reason it's a minor is the third, this would have been a C major, is we flattened the third. We've gone down a semitone. Makes it a bit sadder. That's what people say, okay? So we're still using stuff in the key. Sounds a bit bluesy. So. Okay, and then if we go and use some other notes, so I'm using E flat, G, and the B flat. I'm still in the key. I'm not using the E and I'm not using the B. Might come along and use F. I can't use the B, so G must be a minor. So I've flattened that this is the G chord, but we flatten the third because we can't use the B. So you can kind of work out your chords from just knowing, you know, once you've worked out what notes are in the scale that you're using. Then you can work out, you can work out whether the chords are right or wrong, whether they're major or minor, just by doing that. That took me years to figure out it was that simple. So that's cool, right? And then that's also C, so that's C major and C minor. And there are various flavors in between where certain notes change and they give you a different flavor. Those are called modes, and you'll hear things like Dorian, Lydian, Phrygian. Okay, what they really are just different starting positions of the same scale. So we've gone up to C, right? That's the major scale, all white notes. If we go back to A, we can play the A minor. Everything's got a relative minor. We can play the A minor scale, exactly the same notes and colours and same jumps. But that's a minor scale because we're using A. I don't know if that makes sense, people. So every major scale has a relative minor, which is 1, 2, 3 semitone back from the root. And we can play the minor scale. So really what that means is you keep coming back to it. It sounds a bit sadder, really. A minor. We can use in the minor scale, well, so the second interval would be B diminished. Might sound a bit classical. We've still got C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, and A. So the only real difference between that A minor scale and the C major scale is which root note you hang around. If you hang around the C or come back to the C a lot, it'll sound major. If you come back to the A a lot, it'll sound more minory. So that's all great, right? That's music theory from a Muppet. But how can you use this to make some ambient music? Well, I'm gonna say let's just make sure I can see my hand. Okay, let's move the camera slightly. Okay, I want to make sure we can see this. So I've got my foot on the sustain pedal of this piano. Now, if you're making ambient music, everyone loves reverb. The sustain pedal on your piano or your synth is kind of like the reverb pedal. Traditionally, you would put it down, and then when you play a different chord, you would take your foot off and just sustain that. In ambient, you can just leave your foot on the sustain pedal. It's just pure reverb. But let's pick a different key, right? Because everyone does C. Let's pick a key like, let's start on C sharp. So this is minor sounding, isn't it? It's sounding sad already. Okay, so that's your standard Aeolian or minor scale, right? And actually C sharp minor is just E major. So here's E. Sounds happier, right? But it's exactly the same notes. But so E major, C sharp minor. Exactly the same set of notes that we're playing with. So C sharp minor is the relative minor of E major. If that's going over your head, don't worry, right? Because all you need to know is once you've Googled or whatever you've done, you've looked up some keys or scales and you've decided, okay, I'm going to do something in C sharp minor. Okay, and you've worked out what your keys are and which keys you're not going to use. I actually prefer this. prefer it without the A. I prefer going to a B flat, so it's a raised sixth. It's a bit more floaty, a bit closer to Dorian. Don't worry about what that means. We're just going to use black note, and the E, F sharp, G flat, and B flat, and C sharp, okay? Then you want to see if you can make some chords. So really, you want to start making some ambient. You can use a synth, you can use piano. You can play, what people play in their left hand, I think you can see my left hand, is they tend to play octaves. So if you play a C, this is C sharp, the third is an E, the fifth is the A flat or G sharp, A flat, most people call it. What most people play is in the left hand, they'll play the octaves. So they'll play two of these C sharps. So that's what people are generally doing with their left hand on piano. It just gives it a bit of a fuller sound. If it's a bit complicated, and it will be to start with, don't try and play with two hands. Just play with one hand, and then you can just fool around with the notes you've got. So I'm just doing something really simple here, and I'm coming back to the root. And you only need something very simple like this to start an ambient track. You could go full. So okay, that's slightly out of key. It should have been a minor actually. So you could go for that, but you actually don't need it. You just need to really, for ambient particularly, less is more. So I'm just playing a root and a fifth, and a root and a fourth. That's the second, because that's the, if you remember. This is our sixth, because I've decided to change it to a B flat. Okay, so really, to get started, all you need to do is work out a key, which notes you're allowed to use, which notes you're allowed to use, which notes you can kind of avoid, unless you want to go for that sound, and then just have a little tinkle around, frankly. If you want to put chords in later, you can work out, using what we did before. I'm allowed to use an E, I'm allowed to use the black key C, so this is going to be a chord. I can't use the white note, I'm going to use two black notes. Here, again, I'm using the black notes. Doesn't really matter what these chords are. This is a particularly good, the C sharp minor with a raised sixth, including this black instead of, we're swapping this A for a B flat, is a particularly nice one to hang around in for ambient music. Stick the sustain pedal down. And if you want to throw some chords, you could record that, and then you could throw some chords in afterwards, or just quietly over it. And what you'll see I'm doing here, if you want to get complicated about things, so this is a C sharp minor. Okay, I've got the root, a third, which is a minor, and then the fifth, which is A flat, right? So now, staying within the key of the notes we're allowed to use, I could take this third and move it down one. That's a sus2. It's still a C sharp, it's a C sharp sus2. It's no longer minor or major, so that would be that would be your major, C sharp major. The third is raised. If we lower it, sad, this is the C sharp minor. If we go down again, it's a nice sound, it's sus2, it's neither major nor minor. We can go up to the fourth as sus4. And if you get your ear in, you'll start hearing this stuff. So major chords, minor chords, suspended second, suspended fourth, and then you can add extras on. So when you get add 9, they're just adding extra notes, add 13, all these music conventions. I hope some of this is making sense, right? Because it's easy to go down a rabbit hole. Anyway, we've got our C sharp minor. Instead of the A, we've got a flat B because I like it. So whatever, that's not actually, we'll call it almost C sharp Dorian. So we'll flip over to the DAW in a minute, which is your digital audio workstation, piece of software. We'll talk about free ones and the ones that I use. And we'll try and record some piano into a track. And if you remember, we recorded some sound of the waves from the beach earlier. I'm going to copy that off my phone, put it into the DAW. We'll record some very simple piano using this C sharp minor scale. And we'll try and, make an ambient track out of it. Maybe we'll add some plugins and things like that. So let's hop over to the computer. Now we're going to want to get some of our music into a DAW. Now, if you don't have a physical piano or a synth, you'll probably just plug in something like this. Have I got it here? Yep. Okay. You'll probably just want something like this. This is an Akai MPK Mini. I think they're about £30 on Amazon, and it's a MIDI controller. It gives you some drum pads. These are all things that do nothing on their own, but you can map them into your software. And if you've got a virtual piano in your DAW, what they call a VST, like a virtual instrument, you can use a USB MIDI controller to play and control those instruments. You can have drums assigned, you could have filters for your synth, or whatever you can control on the virtual instrument, you can get on one of these. So you could have a USB MIDI controller, okay? Mine's got dust on it because I almost never use it. I use my actual instruments in my room. And if you have real instruments, or you have a synth or something external, something hardware-y that you want to plug in to get your music recorded into your DAW, you'll need something like this. This is a pretty good option. This is a Focusrite Scarlett, and this is an audio interface. So this is USB connected into your Mac or PC, and you've got various connectivity here. This is a 2-channel device, so 2 stereo channels. You can patch a guitar in the front there, or a microphone. You've got some gain and some other knobs to control the volumes and things. So you've got these 2 like TRS jacks, like a guitar jack that can plug in the front, but you've got the same on the back. These are XLR connectors, so if you have a different kind of cable or a microphone, you can plug into the back. But this will give you 2 very basic channels, very decent, probably about £100 on Amazon. And this, for a long time, this is all I needed. I've upgraded to more now just because I didn't want to keep swapping all of my instruments around. But one of these, you can't really go wrong. Scarlett, Focusrite, and you can get 4, 8 different numbers of interfaces depending on how many instruments you've got in your studio. What that will eventually do, though, is allow you to record something in your DAW. So if we look at my DAW here, I'm using Logic. They're all pretty much the same, but you've got kind of a mixer down the bottom where you can adjust your volume and your levels and the panning, and you can also put plugins on. We can come on to that in a second. And up the top, you've kind of got your timeline, and then you've got channels. And these are, this is like a template that I use. So I've got one here for piano. You've got mute, solo, so that you only hear that particular channel, or you don't hear that channel if you mute it. You've got record, so arm it for recording. And I is input monitoring, so you can hear what it's doing. So if you want to go and play it in the other room without recording it, you can just have it as input. Ooh, and that's linked up to my microphone, so it's got some feedback. So here is also my channels. This is the channel strip, like an old mixing desk. So you've got the channel up here, and what you record will sort of go along the timeline. or you can drag and drop samples in, all kinds of things. But you've also got the sort of the old-fashioned mixing desk view where you can add plugins that do things, you know, like add special effects, adding reverb, that kind of thing. You can send it off to other channels and buses and do things. We'll look into that. And you can choose where it goes. You can make groups. You can pan it left and right. And you can change the volume of your particular track. Okay. So we are going to record some piano in, and then we're going to pull in that sounds of the sea that I recorded on my iPhone. So up here, you've just got some information about your project. 120 beats per minute is fine for a pop song, but it's probably a bit quick for ambient. So I'm going to reduce that down. The only reason you need to reduce it is when I turn on the metronome, which isn't doing anything at the moment. Maybe you'll hear it now. If I had it 120, probably be a bit fast for an ambient track. 180 might be good for drum and bass. You can play that fast if you want to, but I mean, most ambient tracks don't. And also, as we're beginning, let's make life easy for ourselves. We'll drop it down to 60. The other thing it would be important for is if I tried to bring in a drum sample, or any sample, it should, the project should slow down my sample to the BPM that I'm using here. Particularly if I wanted drums. So if I went to some of my samples and looked at drums, let's have a look. I like We Sound Human, Zen drums. So I've got some drum stuff here. So this is recorded at 120 BPM and it's in B minor. Let's just listen to a bit of drums. Where's the drums? Drums. Maybe it hasn't got drums. Drums. Missed it. So if I change the timing, I'm going to change the speed of my drums, okay? So it's sort of important that you get that right if you want to bring in external stuff, because 120 is going to be quite fast. So 60s, it'll calm down in a minute. 60 is pretty good. That'll do. As it catches up. Okay, so we've got the speed. We've also got the key and the time format. So 4/4 time, there's lots of different times. It's how many beats are in each bar. So a waltz might be 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and there might be 4 bars. So 3 beats over 4 bars. 4/4 is what most music and probably what we're going to do is. So it's like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. You know, you can have 5/4, you can have 6/4, 6/8, and other things. Let's just keep that simple. And then the key doesn't really change much in your DAW, but if you were to bring in other samples or maybe instruments or AI instrument players, then the key would be maybe important because it might do something in your DAW. But okay, we can do it for the sake of just being right. We'll call it C# minor, okay? And then I'm going to save my track because I haven't got anything yet, but I always like to start the saving, so I don't want to call this inner echo. We'll call it my first track. Okay, so that saves your project, and it's just good to keep saving as you go along. So that's now there's a folder where all of our audio files are going to get saved. So what I really want to do now is get some piano in here using the technique of fooling around on the piano that we used earlier. So I don't even know what I'm going to play, but we'll see if we can get something half useful. So I need to make sure that my piano track is going to my audio interface. Now I've got lots of inputs. So if you remember, we've got the you know, if you had a Focusrite, you'd have 2. That's all you'd have probably. Unless you had a 4, you'd have 4 tracks. So depending on how many audio interfaces you've got, I've got quite a few, but I've labeled them, right? So I want my synth rack because that's where my piano is plugged in, and because it's left and right, it's in stereo. There's a 5 and a 6, so I'm going to go to the synth rack. And I'm going to click on that little dot. So now it's a stereo. That's what that means in Logic. That's mono. That's now stereo. Okay. And I've got some plugins. I've got like a stereo. I've got like an SSL plugin here. But I'm going to turn that off. We're not going to use that for now. So let's just record something on the piano. So I'm going to arm the track. Okay. And then I'm going to also monitor it so that I can hear what I'm playing and I'm going to click, I've got the metronome here, so it'll give me, I can keep time, and I'm going to click record. I'll take you with me. Okay, let's see what we get. There we go, our sustain pedal. This is ambient, so we can take our time. Let's just say that's it. Maybe that's enough, right? So we'll stop there because we can loop this. Now remember, I didn't say it was going to be a good track. So let's stop our recording. Okay, and you can see these little, we can zoom in here. You can see we've got these little lines. So maybe I should have had my gain up a little bit higher, but I'm going to click on the piano, click on the region. This is called a region, and I can up the gain, which basically makes the signal stronger. If I go too far, it's going to just distort. So I don't want anything to be touching the top, but it just helps us see the waveform a little bit better, and it makes it a little bit clearer. So let's just trim off this because I can see that I start playing notes about there. I can probably trim off the end here. And I can line up these dots, right? So obviously I was hopefully playing to the metronome. I can line up my first note there with the lines, and you can see because we're in the right time and 60 beats per minute, yeah, it looks like I was pretty much playing in time. Most of my notes look like they're on the line, so that's good. And what I can do is make that the start of my track. Ooh. I just trim it. What you can do in Logic is you can trim right up to the note, and then that should be the beginning of my track, right? What I can also do is click on this ruler at the top, and I can say this is my project length. So this is how long my piece is going to be. And what I said I might do is I might loop this. So let's listen to what we've got first of all. Oh, and it won't play anything because I've got monitoring and recording on. So in Logic, I need to take those off. And I can turn off my metronome. Remember, it was quite boring to start with, and then you might say it was boring the whole way through. But then we introduce a bit of complexity. Okay, what I'm going to do is copy that region. I've just done a Control-C. I'm going to go to the end here, and I'm going to do a paste. Okay, and I'm going to just line that up so that it starts again. So I get 2 loops of this piano, and I'm going to leave a little bit of gap at the end because there might be some reverb that tails off here, right? That's what I'm going to do. So now we've got our piano track. Hopefully you can hear it. And that's fine, but what I want to do is probably put a compressor on here. And a compressor just sort of makes the quiet sounds louder and the loud sounds quieter. It's just a standard studio thing. So if I put compressor, you will have some compressors stock in your DAW. There'll be some free ones. I've got some fancy ones that I've bought that I quite like. And really they're modeling, I didn't need dual mono, I needed the other one. You'll hear the sound actually changes because it'll sound like it's getting louder. But we'll put a compressor on this channel, and it's modeling old hardware like this. And in here, you'll find there are some defaults. You can pick, sometimes it'll say keys, best of's probably a good place to start. And you'll hear it's getting louder, right? So that piano is getting clearer, we're hearing more of the lows. I'd say it sounds better. Soft touch bass, say we like that, right? If we want, we don't have to use the presets. We can adjust this ourselves. This is the gain. You'll start to hear fuzzing and distortion if you go too far. And this is the reduction, right? So what you can do to really compress it is boost the gain so the quiet sounds are louder, and then you could increase the reduction so that you're pushing down the top sounds. That's what you're doing. You're compressing the audio really in very basic terms. What you're really trying to do is listen to something that you like in your own ears, right? And I can hear a little bit of buzzing there because we're upping the gain so much with this compressor we can hear some of the noise on the channel. So often it's best to take a default. I'll take bass crunch, fine. Okay, so we've got a compressor. And that already sounds quite good. And our little loop is about to repeat itself now. Just make sure it's lined up properly. No, see, I had a gap there. So that might be what you want, but actually, I probably want to bring it over. And let's listen again. It'll auto fade between 2 regions. And then I want the next beat to continue, and it does. Okay, now let's copy the sound of the waves in from the beach earlier. Okay, so that wind noise is going to be a bit annoying. So what I've done is I've also got a video which I took, which will have audio in it. So you can drag a video into Logic. You can have it open the movie, or you can just strip out the, let's have a look. You can strip out the sound channels. So here's my movie. New stuff, so let's have a go at this. And again, we can possibly filter out the wind. We can maybe enhance some of the twinklier side. There we go. We can enhance some of the frequencies, and we can probably drop off some of the top stuff. Okay, let's try and use that. Okay, so I'm going to just get rid of these other tracks that I accidentally imported. These were just audio tracks from the video. I'm just going to keep the one that I've got highlighted. And
I'm going to get rid of the original one, which had all the wind noise, so we don't need that anymore. I'm just right-clicking and deleting them. Okay, so now we've got our track, we've got our sound for the waves, and we've got our piano. So if I take the solo off, it's okay. Maybe we could slow it down. What we can certainly do is we can stretch that water sound to maybe there, to the last note of the piano. This is where maybe a creative plugin would be helpful. So let's take our piano down. It's a bit noisy, it's a bit loud. So we'll go to the, I'm going to change the name of this, we'll call it Waves. And we've already got a plugin here which is doing the filtering to get rid of the wind noise, that's fine. I'm going to add another plugin. I've got some good plugins here. One's called Space Blender, which stretches sounds. So we'll take the sound of the sea and we'll stretch it, and we'll also spread it across the stereo field. So Space Blender is from Soundtoys. It's a suite of plugins which are very, very good, and there's all sorts in there, all sorts of good plugins. I challenge you to go and look at it yourself. But again, there'll be presets in here. Ambient presets. So what this is doing is sort of spreading it around the stereo field, making it a bit more ambient sounding. And we can change the colour and the texture, so we can change this ourselves. This is focusing on which end of the spectrum it's enhancing. Stretch the time out longer. So we're already taking away that harshness of the wind. Let's see what else we've got. I don't want to spend too long just going through plugins, but we've got lots of things. First swell. That's brought back some of the sound that I can hear the stereo of the sound of the sea. So we'll keep that. We'll go with this one first swell. Okay, I'm going to give it a bit more mix. Great. And you can keep adding plugins. If you want to add more and more plugins and more reverb, you can. What we don't have is a plugin other than the compressor on the piano. So I'm going to go to the piano, and I'm giving away my top plugins now, but a great one is Utopia by Adapter, and it's got more than enough, you can hear it's already kicked in, it's got more than enough reverbs and special effects. You can go into the presets, it's got groups, there's some good ones for piano, especially for, you don't have to use the ones for piano, but it's got some good ones in here for piano. I think sometimes it's a bit over the top. So it's already added something. You need to use your own judgment here. I might go with something lo-fi. Let's see what's in the lo-fi. Black Magic. Grey Wash. I should have already picked one, shouldn't I, before I made this video. I like what it's doing though. Lucid Dream. Bit too much. Let's just go for ambience. There's a nice one here I like called Moonglow. And I'll just bring the mix down a touch. Okay, it's going to loop round again. So we've got a bit of Moonglow happening on our piano, and we've got some Space Blender happening on our waves. And we need to watch our levels here, so make sure we're not peaking and we're not going too high. If it goes into the yellow and the red, you're going to peak, and you're going to basically add distortion into your channel. So you want to make sure you're always in the green, and it's always good to be around. So the 0 at the very top is like max volume, you want to be around 6, probably between -12 and -6 decibels. So really about where these are just touching. That gives you plenty of room for boosting the signal later if you want to. And now that reverb in the background, I want to glitch or something, so maybe add some glitchy to it. So I'm going to add another plugin. And another one of my favourites is called Portal by Output, I think they're called. And this one adds sort of various bits of glitchiness. So again, I've got the piano now going, just piano, going through Utopia, giving that Moonglow reverb. And now I'm going to add, I don't know, let's have a listen to what we can add from Portal. So it's doing some stereo chopping around. We don't have to have it full wet either, so it says wet dry. So if we just want, we don't want too much of the effects, we want the piano and just a smaller bit, we can bring that back. Ambient Lake. It's got the word ambient in it, so I think we have to use it. And I'm going to bring the wet dry down so we get some of the original sound through. And obviously there's more settings in here, you can go crazy with this stuff. But this sounds good. So we've got our waves, and we've got some ambient. Now that's sort of taken away some of the power of my piano, right? So if I turn it off, we'll hear the piano again. Maybe I still want the effect that Portal's giving me, but I don't want it to take over and hide my piano. And yeah, you can change the wet and the dry, but what is often good to do is to send the piano off to a bus, another track, and then add the Portal effect onto that. So here I'm going to make a new bus, just pick a number. What it'll do is it'll add a new track, which is a bus track. I'm going to call it Piano Portal, so I know what it's for. And I can take my Portal plugin and move it over, turn it back on. Now nothing's happening, there's no levels here, right? There's no music coming through. That's because I need to turn up the send. So I need to actually send some volume to that bus. 0 is like unity, you're sending the same amount. You can send more, but it's generally good to keep it just under. And I can bring down the Portal. So now I've got that Portal. So I've still got my piano, I've got the Portal sound. I would argue that's better. What I might do is take Portal and add a stereo widener on it. I've got one called Quad Image. Okay, and in here some great presets, spread out, so I can widen my stereo just for the Portal, leave the piano, so the piano's kind of coming down the middle. Out of the stereo field, I've got the Portal stuff happening now. I'm rushing through this. This is just flavouring it, but you can do whatever you want. These are just things I tend to go to and use. Okay, so we've got our waves, we've got our piano, we've got some plugins. You might be cool. That's good. I think it just needs maybe a synth pad. It needs a bit of movement, right? So maybe in that second half, maybe we'll put a synth pad in there. So I'm going to go over to the Prophet. I've got a nice Prophet 10 here, and that does big, fat, or maybe some strings. We'll see. We'll see what we can find. So what I'm going to do is set up the Prophet over here. So I'm going to take a track, Prophet 10. Okay, I need to make sure it's coming in on the right channel. So on my Logic, I've got the Prophet 10 plugged into input 3, and it's a mono synth, so it hasn't got stereo anyway. And I'll turn it on, and I'll take you over to look at the Prophet. Okay, so here we are on the Prophet. Let's see, I'm just going to use factory presets. I quite like stuff in Bank 3. No, it's not Bank 3. Okay, so we'll use the standard preset from the factory bag. We use preset 1. Why not? Okay. I've got a filter here. So I better record. We're recording. So obviously we want to let our track develop. We could punch in later in the track. It's called punching in. You can just start the recording where you want to record, but I prefer to listen to the track, get into the vibe, and then drop in when you get to the bit you want to play. That's how I do it. Other people may differ. So our Prophet's all set up. We know the patch we want. We've got the volume set, it's tuned. I'm just going to come in with some low notes. Make sure the attack and the release are suitably low. Real slow attack actually. I'm just going to come in with the root note, which is a C sharp. I'm letting our track develop before I come in. We're always trying to give the listener something new. So there's no point in me coming in. We'll let this first loop play because it develops enough. There's hopefully some interest in that. When we get into the second loop, where we copied the piano for the second time, then I'll start to introduce something new, like the synth. If we had more synths, we could introduce more things, but we're just going to add a Prophet. I'm impatient, so I might come in early. I'm just filtering, I'm just twisting the filter on the Prophet. Just to give it a bit of movement. And then fade off that filter. Let it fade away. So we had a taste of the Prophet. We'll bring it back, maybe higher up. Those plugins are really nice. I'm going to come in now with maybe the root and the fifth, which is kind of the pattern we were playing on the piano. So C sharp and then the A flat. I'm going to come in now with a C sharp when I come back round. Now. really in time with the piano here. I'm just vaguely following behind it, but it doesn't have to be too tight. I'm going to add in some different notes, so I'm going to add in the fifth, maybe a higher C sharp. Open the filter. That'll do. Okay, so that was a really simple one-take Prophet track. I mean, you could take more care, but I'm just trying to illustrate the point here. So we now have our Prophet track. I'm going to extend this out because there may be a bit of reverb added to the Prophet in a minute. You can see in the waveform the first time we brought the Prophet in, then the second time. There's lots of gain on that Prophet. It's nice levels. If we come to where the Prophet comes in. Now I can hear that, but I think it would benefit from a compressor. So let's put, I like the LA2 compressor. You're going to hear the Prophet boost in volume. And we'll go for a bass. So you can either have presets that really accentuate the bass and make it growl, or limit it and bring it down, so that you can do what you want with compressors. But maybe what I'll do here, let's just go back to our compressor. Maybe I don't want it too loud because we're trying to make ambient here, right? But I want it to be there. We can bring down the level so it's not. What I'll also do, because I love it, is throw on the quad imager and make it stereo. I'm going to say wide panorama. Let's go back to that Prophet sound again. And here I can change which bits I want wide. I quite like making the bass go wide. Maybe some of the highs go wide. Maybe raise the gain on the mids. Let's try it on where it comes in later. We've also got enlarge your synth as a preset. No, I think I liked my one. I will go for enlarge your synth. Expanded lows. What we'll also do, because you can't have too much reverb, is we'll put some Utopia on that synth. And it's got settings for synths. Let's try something a bit different. The abduct sucks away from the sound. Cloud halo. Drone logic. Anything with the word ambient would probably suit us, wouldn't it? That's been the go-to so far. Undermine. Rainbow rays. Some of these are very subtle. That's a pad pumper. So it's kaleidoscopic pads. Oh, too much rhythm. Glacial perfection. I like that. That's taken the edge off the synth. Okay. So now we've got a basic ambient track. What I've got at the end of my let me just stop this so you can hear me. Okay, so we've got our ambient track. So we can get rid of all of these other tracks, right? Because these were just spares that I had in my template. You don't need to worry about what those were. So we've got 3 tracks. We've got the waves. We've got the piano with some plugins, both with plugins. We've got the Prophet 10 now, again with some plugins. Okay, and it sounds okay. What I like to do is on the master bus here, So this is like the final, so this is like a mixing desk, right? You've got your piano, we've got our 3 buses where we're putting the plugins, and then we've got some other outputs, but basically you end up with a master bus, and you can add plugins to the master bus. And what I'm going to add to this master bus is a bus compressor, which is like a final compressor doing a slightly different job, bringing all the different levels together at the end of the chain. So people talk about end of chain compressors. I'm going to use, I don't know why it's multi-mono, but we'll use it. So we'll just turn it on. And this is what really makes it sound a bit more professional. Sort of tame the highs and you can bring up the lows. You can change the ratio of how much you're compressing the high stuff to sort of bring it squashed together. Sometimes it doesn't always help. I like it to have a bit of dynamics. We also want to watch our levels here. So we're not hitting the red, that's good. So we'll put that on. I also like to add an Ampeg tape master. Okay, now this is a great plugin. What this will do is very subtly change the EQ of your track to different kinds of tape from the analog age. Smooth is good. I like to go through them just listening on my studio speakers. It surprises me sometimes, but I know the one I'm going to want is almost always GP9 hyped up. It's just my favourite. That just gives it a little something at the end. Not a professional mastering job, but it gives it a little something. And what I might add is some dynamic EQ, just to have something take out the muddiness for me. I mean, you could EQ it yourself, but I've got ozone, so I quite like dynamic tape. So here it's taking out some of the muddy frequencies, it's enhancing some of the mids. There are different presets here, stereo tape focus. And you can turn this off to listen. Not a lot in it, but it's adding a little something to the frequency spectrum. Okay? And that might be it. That might be it. I'm not peaking. What I might do finally is add a limiter, right? I don't want to smash it into the limiter and make it really loud, but what I wanted to do is catch any high peaks that I've missed. Hopefully I haven't, because I can see none of these waveforms are touching the top, but with the plugins being added, they may spike. So let's just add a limiter. I think I've got, just add a standard limiter. Okay, and I'm just gonna take the gain down from the top, so it just doesn't ever let it really get to the top. And you can see here it's not doing anything because nothing's peaking, so that's good. But I'm gonna leave it there as a safety net. Is that profit now too loud? I'm going to drop it down a bit. What you can also do is you could maybe think about offsetting the stereo of the profit and the piano. They're both stereo tracks, but just edge them out a little bit. Edge the profit out to the right, and that will just ensure those frequencies might not compete so much. The waves looks like we can change. I've never seen this setting, but it looks like it's almost 3D. It's probably because the iPhone records it in almost 3D sound. So you can put the sound behind you. You can put it forwards in front of you. Quite nice. I'll put it there. I'll do one last thing, just because I can't help myself. I'll add some glitch to the profit, just to give it a bit of maybe some rhythm going on somewhere, right? So we'll take this profit and we'll send it to a new bus, and we'll call it profit glitch. And I'm going to use Portal because I love it. And I'm going to need to send some of the volume Profit to my portal. What I can also do is I can just solo the portal. So I'm just hearing what this plugin's doing without all of the other stuff. And I can go stretch and smear, delay. I'm going to try glitchy. What's in glitchy? Some of this will be a bit strong. So that's giving it a little bit of a jumping sound. A strange repeat. Now let's take the solo off and see what that sounds like mixed in. It's giving it a bit of rhythm. I don't dislike that. It's more of a dance track with ambient, but I wonder what fluid accumulator is. Sounds interesting. It's probably closer to our ambient roots. So it's just glitching a little bit into that Prophet sound and adding a bit of motion to the track. I'm gonna stick with this one. That's it. Done. Okay. It's done. Okay, there we go. I'm going to export this now, and then I'm going to upload it to SoundCloud or somewhere. Go to bounce. Product of selection. Now remember, I've got the time, I've got the, the yellow bar here selecting my project, so I've left myself a little tail at the end. I've already got this set up to export in WAVs, which is the uncompressed version. That's the high quality version with a bigger file, and MP3, because then I can send it to people on WhatsApp. It's a smaller file, so that'll bounce it to my folder. And it's called Inner Echo, my first track, and what we'll call it Inner Echo First Steps. And I like to version them because quite often I'll go back and change them and change the sound things. I hope that's helped somebody. I didn't promise it would be a good track. It's an okay track. I'll stick it up on the SoundCloud. And if anyone wants the files or has got any questions, I don't know. Hopefully that just helps someone have give you a little bit of a leg up and get you going. It's probably going to turn into a really long video when I edit it together. But thanks guys, and thanks for being a cool community. Hope this helps.